The Middle East is once again at the center of global attention, as tensions flare and the world's eyes turn to a region long marked by conflict and shifting alliances. Operation Epic Fury, a massive military campaign, now enters its fifth day, with the situation growing more complex and volatile by the hour. The United States, joined by Israel, has launched a major offensive against Iran. What began as a series of targeted airstrikes has now escalated into a new ground front, opening up a dangerous new phase in the conflict. In a dramatic development, thousands of Kurdish fighters have crossed from Iraq into western Iran, signaling a shift from isolated airstrikes to a coordinated and determined ground assault. This bold move is designed to stretch Iran's military thin, forcing it to defend on multiple, widely separated fronts, and testing the limits of its command and control. The Kurdish groups, who have long sought autonomy and recognition, are now directly challenging Tehran's authority, emboldened by international support and the shifting balance of power. Their offensive, launched from strongholds in Iraqi Kurdistan, marks an unprecedented level of coordination and raises urgent questions about the future stability of Iran and the wider region. American and Israeli airstrikes have already targeted and destroyed key Iranian military sites, weakening defenses and clearing the way for the Kurdish advance on the ground. The situation remains highly fluid, with new developments and shifting alliances emerging rapidly, making it difficult to predict what will happen next. This conflict is rooted in deep historical grievances, ethnic tensions, and modern geopolitical rivalries that have shaped the region for generations. As events continue to unfold, the world watches anxiously, aware that the outcome could reshape the Middle East and have far-reaching consequences for global stability. The United States justifies Operation Epic Fury as a necessary response to what it describes as decades of Iranian hostility, aggression, and defiance of international norms. Central to Washington's concerns is the threat posed by a nuclear-armed Iran, which U.S. officials argue would destabilize the entire Middle East and threaten global security. The U.S. government labels Iran a rogue regime, pointing to its support for armed militias across the region, its confrontational rhetoric, and its refusal to comply with international agreements. Iran's pursuit of advanced missile technology and nuclear weapons is seen as a direct threat to American interests, U.S. allies, and the fragile balance of regional stability. Years of diplomatic efforts and negotiations, according to the White House, have failed to produce meaningful results. Military action is now viewed as the only remaining option to prevent further escalation. Meanwhile, Iran's internal unrest, including the widespread woman life freedom protests, has further destabilized the regime, exposing deep divisions within Iranian society. Tehran, in turn, blames foreign interference and Western influence for its domestic troubles, which has only deepened the atmosphere of mistrust and suspicion. The recent death of Supreme Leader Khamenei has left Iran in a period of political uncertainty and transition, fueling tensions both at home and abroad. Iran's ongoing support for proxy groups throughout the region, including Hezbollah and various militias in Iraq and Syria, as well as a series of attacks on U.S. allies and interests, have escalated what was once a shadow war into open and direct conflict. Years of sanctions and covert operations have failed to curb Iran's ambitions or halt its nuclear program, ultimately leading to this direct military confrontation. Now the US and Israel are more determined than ever to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, insisting they will do whatever it takes, regardless of the cost. This conflict is the culmination of years of mounting pressure, failed diplomacy, and rising hostilities, now erupting into a full-scale war that will shape the future of the region.
Operation Epic Fury began with relentless U.S. and Israeli airstrikes targeting Iran's military infrastructure, marking the start of one of the most intense aerial bombardments in recent history. The skies above Iran lit up as waves of precision-guided munitions rained down on key military sites, sending shockwaves through the region and signaling a new phase in the conflict. Over 2,000 targets have been hit in the opening days, with strikes focusing on command centers, missile sites, and IRGC facilities. The scale and coordination of these attacks have left much of Iran's military command structure in disarray, disrupting communications and crippling their ability to respond effectively. Kurdish-majority cities like Sanandaj have faced repeated bombardment, weakening Iran's grip on strategic regions and further destabilizing areas already fraught with tension. Civilian infrastructure has also suffered, raising concerns about the humanitarian impact of the ongoing campaign. The U.S. Navy has destroyed more than 20 Iranian vessels, including a prized warship sunk by submarine torpedo, a rare feat since World War II. These naval strikes have severely limited Iran's ability to operate in the Persian Gulf, shifting the maritime balance. Israel's air force has dropped over 5,000 munitions, aiming to cripple Iran's offensive capabilities and neutralize threats before they can be launched. The sheer volume of ordnance deployed underscores the determination to achieve air superiority. The Pentagon claims Iran's military is decimated, with its missile and drone launch sites severely degraded. Many of Iran's most advanced weapons systems have been rendered inoperable, leaving their arsenal in tatters. The air campaign is designed to pave the way for ground operations and send a message of overwhelming force. Each strike is calculated to break resistance and clear obstacles for advancing troops. U.S. officials state, "We are just getting started," signaling further escalation and a commitment to sustained pressure on Iran's military leadership. The destruction of Iran's naval and air assets demonstrates not only technological superiority, but also a clear strategic intent to dominate the battle space and deter further aggression. The campaign's intensity is reshaping the military balance in the region, forcing neighboring countries to reconsider their own security postures and alliances. Iran's ability to project power is rapidly diminishing, as its forces retreat and abandon key positions under relentless assault. The skies over Iran remain fiercely contested as the operation intensifies, with both sides bracing for the next phase of this high-stakes conflict. On March 5th, Kurdish fighters launched a coordinated ground offensive into western Iran. Backed by U.S. and Israeli airstrikes, these groups seized the moment to challenge weakened Iranian forces. The offensive is part of a broader strategy to force Iran into a two-front war, stretching its resources. Kurdish political and military factions, historically divided, are now cooperating under a new coalition. Their calls for Iranian security forces to defect highlight the regime's vulnerability. While Kurdish leaders claim to seek autonomy within Iran, their alliance with foreign powers could shift ambitions. The offensive's success depends on unity and sustained support from the U.S. and Israel. Tehran is forced to divert troops from other fronts, complicating its defense. The outcome will shape both the conflict's trajectory and the region's future. The Kurdish advance marks a pivotal moment in the war. President Trump has taken a hardline stance, vowing to see Operation Epic Fury through to its end. His rhetoric is uncompromising, warning Iranian leaders that resistance will be met with overwhelming force. Trump's direct engagement with Kurdish leaders underscores the central role of Kurdish forces in U.S. strategy. Public briefings emphasize American strength and the rapid destruction of Iran's military assets. The administration highlights successful evacuations of Americans and preparations for a prolonged campaign. Defense industry leaders are coordinating with the White House to accelerate weapons production. The message is clear: the U.S. is prepared for a long, resource-intensive conflict. Trump's approach combines military might with strategic alliances, aiming to maintain public support. The administration is planning for both immediate victories and future challenges. The White House projects confidence, determined to reshape the regional order. Israel is a central partner in Operation Epic Fury, sharing the U.S. goal of neutralizing Iran's threat. Israeli airstrikes have targeted nuclear, missile, and IRGC sites, using years of intelligence to maximize impact. Prime Minister Netanyahu hopes these attacks will weaken the regime and inspire internal dissent, especially among minorities. Israel's involvement extends to intelligence and rumored support for Kurdish fighters on the ground. The alliance with the U.S. is built on a shared determination to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran. Israeli officials see this as a critical moment to act decisively. Their deep commitment is reshaping the military and political landscape of the Middle East. The U.S.-Israel partnership is a formidable force driving the campaign forward. Iran has responded with force, launching hundreds of missiles and thousands of drones at U.S. and allied targets. The IRGC is mobilizing ground troops to counter the Kurdish offensive and striking opposition bases in Iraqi Kurdistan. Tehran aims to secure its borders and punish those aiding the attack. The conflict is straining Iraq, caught between U.S. forces, pro-Iranian militias, and Kurdish factions. Iraqi leaders warn against violations of sovereignty, but struggle to control events in Kurdistan. Pro-Iranian militias threaten retaliation, raising the risk of broader clashes. Kurdish leaders are divided, some negotiating with Iran, while others fight against it. The region faces deep divisions and escalating instability. Neighboring countries are on edge as the conflict threatens to spill over.
The war's ripple effects are reshaping alliances and fueling uncertainty across the Middle East. As of March 5th, the conflict is intensifying, with no clear end in sight. Operation Epic Fury has crippled much of Iran's military, but the political outcome remains uncertain. The Kurdish ground offensive adds a volatile new dimension, risking wider regional instability. Iran's resistance continues, and its government shows no signs of collapse. The risk of escalation is high, with potential for the conflict to draw in more actors. Iraq's fragile balance is under threat, and humanitarian costs are mounting. The US signals further escalation, making de-escalation unlikely in the near term. The future of Iran, the Kurds, and the region hangs in the balance. The world watches as the crisis deepens, with key questions unanswered. Will this campaign achieve its goals, or ignite a broader, more destructive war? Only time will tell.